Hello everyone, this is PKL Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be another fun breakdown when we look at the top 10 best DC animated movies. Now we've had so many animated movies surrounding all of the classic characters from the DC universe for the last 10 to 15 years or so I'm sure you've watched a lot of the films surrounding the iconic DC characters. So after watching this breakdown, let me know within the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my choices, and then we can have a further discussion after. So we'll get straight to it then and start off with the first entry on this list at number 10, and that is Green Lantern First Flight. The first real big animated Green Lantern movie is a very solid, efficient story, doing everything right that the live action movie from 2011 didn't, by getting Hal Jordan's origin of being selected by the Ring over in really the first 5 minutes of the movie, before setting the rest of the story in outer space, where we see Hal fighting alongside the other Green Lantern Corps from the likes of Boudica, Tomar-Ray, Kilowog and Sinestro, and we have plenty of action and spectacle with a decent animation style and a great characterization of Sinestro, probably one of the best villains of any feature-length DC animated movie. So definitely this is a fast-paced, entertaining Green Lantern story, and sadly it still remains the best we've had, both in terms of animation and live action, but hopefully that situation changes in the future. So a very good first entry on this list with Green Lantern First Flight. We go on to the next entry that I want to talk about at number 9, and that is Batman Assault on Arkham. We have much craziness and carnage guaranteed, as we follow the very familiar story by now of the most notorious criminals and supervillains being assigned by Amanda Waller and the Cadmus Group. This time they're assigned to break into Arkham to obtain classified data. Featuring the likes of Deadshot, Killer Frost, King Shark and Harley Quinn, and of course Joker and Batman. This is the real Suicide Squad movie that we should have got, by keeping it very much more on a smaller scale. This is far more of a heist movie in many sense, which very much generates a lot of claustrophobia and tension and suspense, and it's these elements that makes this far superior to the two live action Suicide Squad movies that we got within the DCEU. Yes, we still get lots of the R-rated tone and humour and R-rated violence, but this is very brisk, entertaining, and another example of animation really showing Hollywood exactly how it should be done. Whilst Batman is involved, they do manage to keep him on the sidelines for certainly the 2/3 of the movie, and manage to keep the focus primarily on the Suicide Squad themselves. So a very good choice at number 9 with Batman Assault on Arkham. We then go on to number 8 on this list, and that is Superman Batman Apocalypse. One of the best collaborations in terms of live action animation of the DC's two big heroes. This is also very much of a Supergirl origin story, as we see Kara being brought to Metropolis by Clark, learning of her heritage and her powers. We also see the likes of Darkseid and Granny Goodness and the Female Furies involved, as Wonder Woman teams up with Superman and Batman as they take a trip to Apokolips with Big Barda in order to save Kara and get revenge on Darkseid. In what's one of the best animated movies in terms of art style, this is a spectacular epic adventure, really good for the most part, perhaps only losing it in a final climax, but despite that it still consists of great action and fight choreography, and this is definitely one of the best visual recreations of Superman in terms of a DC animated movie. So a great entry that we have on this breakdown for Superman Batman Apocalypse. We then go on to number 7 on this list, and that is Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Coming off the superb animated series Batman Beyond, this continues the adventures of Terry McGinnis and an aging Bruce Wayne set in a futuristic Gotham metropolis, this time coming up against a rejuvenated Joker, in what is overall a very good story that eventually takes quite a dark, compelling turn 2/3 of the way through. Definitely one of the most disturbing scenes within all of DC animation, surrounding the Joker's treatment of Tim Drake's Robin. This is a very slick and well animated movie, a very fine advert for Batman Beyond, which definitely deserves a 4th season and probably another animated movie as well. It would be so great if we could get another feature-length quality movie where we focus this time on the newer villains within the series itself rather than going to the Joker, but despite that, this is definitely one of the best animated movies in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. We then go on to number 6 on this list, and that is Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. In what's probably the best Justice League animated movie, we see the famous team helping out a Lex Luthor from an alternate world, taking on the crime syndicate within his universe. Full of great colour and animation, we see a whole host of characters that all get their time to shine with great moments. We also have some great villains with the likes of Ultraman, Superwoman, and the best of them all being Owlman, voiced very well by actor James Woods, who has a great climatic scene with Batman towards the end of the film, This is just such a great movie, really embracing all of the fantasy, the magic and the science elements that we associate so much within the DC universe. There's a great fun and spirit and tone, making it overall one of the best DC animated movies. We then go on to number 5 on this list, and that is The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. The second part of the adaptation of Frank Miller's famous comic book storyline focuses on Batman's final confrontations with the Joker, who breaks free from Arkham, the story shifting afterwards to Superman's role as an orderly soldier for the government, getting involved in their overall conflict with the Russian Soviet Union, then soon after that being ordered to take down Batman. Full of great action and dark, intense moments, this remains a stunning recreation of the source material. Just like the first part, it's very eerie and intense. We have a great musical score, especially with the final scenes between Batman and Joker, and we could argue that the story beats between Batman facing off against the Joker and then shifting towards his battle against Superman doesn't quite mesh as well. But to be honest, any flaws within the story are really inherited from the original source material itself. Looking back in hindsight, I would have probably preferred a part 3 where part 2 focused primarily on the battle against the Joker, and in part 3 would have focused far more against the battle against Superman. But despite that, this still remains a fantastic adaptation, definitely one of the best produced DC animated films, and a very superb treatment of Frank Miller's iconic storyline. So a great entry on this list for The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. We then go on to number 4 on this list, and that is Wonder Woman, the most iconic female superheroine, finally getting her long overdue animated movie, showcasing her origins in epic fashion as she joins pilot Steve Trevor into man's world to take on the forces of Ares. With a real fervour and energy along with a high quality animation style, this is a truly impressive outing for Diana Prince. The story is really well put together, producing a very compelling narrative. It still stands superior to both the live action Wonder Woman movies and also the very disappointing lackluster Wonder Woman Bloodlines. This is the real epic Wonder Woman story that I would have loved to have seen recreated in live action. The character has really been so underutilised in animation. It still remains a big disservice how she didn't get her own standalone animated series alongside both Batman and Superman in the glory years of the DC animated movies helmed by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. But the character has been brought far more into prominence following the recent successes of her live action movies, so hopefully we'll see far more of a focus on Wonder Woman within the future, as she still remains one of the most iconic comic book characters ever in general, and she deserves far more animated content for sure. But overall, in terms of this movie, it's a great entry, combining great elements of fantasy, humour, and action and magic and the supernatural overall. So a truly great, outstanding animated movie at number 4 with Wonder Woman. We then go on to number 3 on this list, and that is The Dark Knight Returns Part 1. The first part of the adaptation of Frank Miller's famous comic book storyline sees the long retired Batman returning to Gotham and his role as the city's protector, this time going up against a psychotic group of the mutants and their hulking brute leader. This still remains today as one of the best animated adaptations of a comic book, and also one of the most faithful, literally taking the original panels from the comic book and putting them on the big screen, alongside enhancing Frank Miller's original primitive art style, giving it far more of a smoother, fluid look to it. This is a very sophisticated and polished production, involving a great soundtrack and musical score. It's very brooding and very serious in its tone, but still compelling all the way, including great voice work with the likes of RoboCop actor Peter Weller in the lead role as Batman. This is definitely one of the best animated adaptations, not only within the DC universe, but with all of Western animation in general. We then come up to the runner-up on this list, and that is Batman Under the Red Hood. Adapting the famous Death in the Family storyline, seeing Joker murdering Jason Todd's Robin, who re-emerges as the vengeful Red Hood, taking down Gotham's criminal element. This is truly a great story, very dark and vivid, especially when we bring in the Joker and his role within the story, and also when we concentrate on the backstory involving Jason Todd and being revived by the Lazarus Pit. You also get the inclusion of Nightwing and also Black Mask, so there's plenty of allusions to the Batman universe, with great superb action, good animation, and a much more of a lower scale, tense, intimate climax, which is far more personal and meaningful to the overall story. Batman Under the Red Hood remains a firm fan favourite, with many people deeming it as perhaps the best overall animated DC film, and whilst I have it as a runner-up, make no mistake, this is a truly fantastic entry amongst the best DC animated movies. So a great selection here in the runner-up position with Batman Under the Red Hood. And so we come to it at last, the number 1 position, what I deem to be the best DC animated movie to date, and that is The Flashpoint Paradox. involving the famous story of Barry Allen travelling back in time to reverse his mother's murder, but eventually causing an alternate reality where the world has become disrupted by a large-scale war between the Amazonians and Atlanteans. We see that Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, is the Batman, as Bruce was originally killed in Crime Alley. Superman is weakened and being held captive, and Cyborg works for the government. Taking the prime elements from the comic book series, this is a brilliant adaptation and visualization, taking a standalone Elseworld story and making it accessible so that you don't need any previous knowledge of the universe in order to enjoy the story. The plot itself is very straightforward, but we still get plenty of references to side plots and characters from the source material. The movie does such a good job in managing to balance all of these expansive elements into a narrative that still makes complete sense. It also gets credit for making the Flash the true centre as the lead character. This story itself is full of great spectacle, where we have some outstanding sequences, including a massive battle on a battleship, a truly great dream sequence where we see the origins of the war between the Amazonians and the Atlanteans, and a truly thrilling and intense climatic battle at the end. This is once again a very dark dystopian story full of violence, but it still manages to provide all of the great spectacle, mystery, science fiction and fantasy and magic, again all of the best elements that make up the DC universe, and also giving us another great villain within all of DC animated fandom in Professor Thorne's Reverse Flash as well, alongside truly stunning and great animation as well. All of these reasons is for me why the Flashpoint Paradox remains overall the best DC animated movie ever. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings and breakdown of what I believe are the top 10 best ever DC animated movies. As I mentioned before, let me know what you think in the comments below if you disagree with any of my choices, and we can have further discussion. If you enjoy my breakdown of this subject and you'd like to see me cover further elements of the DC animated movies or characters, or indeed any other topics within movies and entertainment, then let me know in the comments and I will see if I can provide some additional commentary surrounding topics that you have selected within your request as well. Please also hit and like those subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very soon.